Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Jamaica's COVID-19 positivity rate surpasses 30% for the first time since the last wave. Central Kingston tense following shooting death of 10-year-old girl and two others in separate incidents. And later in sports, GC Foster College partners with Jamaica Lacrosse Association for hub for all national teams. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. The country's COVID-19 positivity rate has surpassed the 30% mark for the first time since the last wave. The Ministry of Health is reporting 365 new cases in the last 24 hours from 1,290 samples. The positivity rate is now 32.5%. The overall case count now stands at 93,591. One more person has died from the virus. The death toll now stands at 2,470. Meanwhile, there are 97 people in hospital with the respiratory illness. 14 patients are critically ill and 2 are severely ill. There are 1,144 active cases on the island. 66 more people have recovered from COVID-19, increasing the overall recovery count to 65,508. To other news, a 10-year-old girl is among 3 persons killed in central Kingston since yesterday. The killings took place in separate incidents. The 10-year-old girl has been identified as Gizaria Tyrell. The police say about 3 o'clock this morning, Gizaria was at her house on Wildman Street when gunmen kicked open the door and shot her.
And like the brother say, come on, take her up now. And that mother say, we can't take her up no, because I think she was in fear. I said the government and probably outside same way. So him say, no man, come with it now. And then pull the door. So me just pull my door same time and say me I come assist in any way me can help. But me see him carry her up, lift up the daughter, and carry her, go in the car and him say, yo, go shut up my door for me because I have my money in there. So by the time him come back, because 2 police cars come up at the same time and ask a couple questions, what go on away, I show them if the pencil and what accurate and them little thing. When him come back now, him said the little girl dead.
And about 7:30 last evening, a 31-year-old man was shot and killed on Rum Lane. He's been identified as Akeem Cunningham.
Coming in from Ministry Church yesterday, because I think I reached on after 7 and I hear that gunshot was fired on my side, but when I actually reached in the comment, I hear say somebody dead at Rum Lane. I'm going to come see beer. Police and soldiers on Wildman Street flood off.
Meanwhile, in another incident, 40-year-old Alton Reed was shot and killed on Rosemary Lane sometime before 1 o'clock. Kingston Central has been recording an upsurge in major crimes, including murders. To other news, should Transport Minister Robert Montague be booted from the cabinet? That discussion has been heating up since Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that he will make changes to the cabinet in the new year. Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, Jeanette Calder, is the latest to weigh in. Here's O'Shane Masters.
Jamaicans were kept on edge following various reports of corruption involving different government entities. Agencies like the Airports Authority of Jamaica and Nutrition Products Limited were in the spotlight. But with the recent announcement of a cabinet reshuffle by Prime Minister Andrew Holness, Jamaicans are eager to see if any minister will be booted. Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, Jeanette Calder, says for her, Transport and Mining Minister Robert Montague should get the boot.
Pick for the minister that I think without question the Prime Minister would be in good stead to say thank you for your service, but would have to be Robert Montague. Nobody is suggesting, and certainly JAMP is not, that Minister Montague has been complicit in any of the concerns that has dogged him wherever he has been positioned. However, it is not a good signal when you're trying to get young ministers to perform that you have ministers where the public has already expressed a certain amount of no confidence, and to keep him in that position I don't know that that is the most inspiring thing to do for younger performing ministers.
She says there were too many scandals in the agencies where Mr. Montague has had oversight.
Security, don't forget, we began the administration with a concern about the purchase of those police cars, which has not yet been remedied. So it has been several issues under several different ministries. And I don't think that that spells anything good for the country.
But she says there might be an issue, as Mr. Montague is also the chairman of the Jamaica Labour Party, JLP. The JAMP executive director says the Prime Minister now has a seemingly tough decision to make.
And this is where JAMP is excited about the discussion the Prime Minister has promised us about constitutional review, because it is that overlap between the political and the executive that creates a difficulty for governance. So one of the discussions that JAMP is most excited about, and if it's not on the Prime Minister's list of things to review, we are going to ask for it to be put, is the question of the overlap.
As for her best performing minister for 2021, Tourism Minister Edwin Bartlett has received the nod.
I think what he has been able to achieve during a COVID time, Jamaica still getting awards, and somehow the entire industry not being upended by COVID is absolutely remarkable. And that makes me really happy to see that not only that he's there, but that he's also the business leader of the House, because that does inspire some confidence to see a performing minister as the business leader in the House of Representatives.
Bashade Masters, TVJ News.
At least one stakeholder in the education sector has high hopes for the safe return of in-person classes for the second school semester, which begins on Monday. President of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, Linvern Wright, says his desire for the new school year is for all students to benefit from face-to-face classes, and that should be for the new year. Sandy Williams reports.
Come Monday, January 3, 2022, thousands of students from 856 schools will return to the physical classroom. This after the institutions were cleared by the Ministry of Health for reopening. Some principals and teachers are looking forward to the resumption of face-to-face classes, even with the rising COVID-19 cases and the presence of the Omicron variant in Jamaica. Linvern Wright is president of the Jamaica Association of Principals of Secondary Schools.
Most schools are ready in relation to the setting up of protocols. We have gone through all of that already. So I think all of us have to be wise in how we watch what is happening with Omicron. I think too that the fact that the hospitalizations don't seem to be that huge. We're watching that, to see how things work. But I think principals and schools and the ministry are all wise to the fact that we can't just jump into it. But the go-ahead is there just in case we can move on.
The selected schools will be utilizing a hybrid approach for the teaching-learning process, which is a mixture of online and in-person classes. Mr. Wright is hoping that all students can be facilitated in the physical classroom.
Because we feel that the only stable, kind of institutionalized approach to socialization for many of these kids is school. And we also know that when they're coming in and teachers can see them, proximity really works in terms of assisting them to learn much better. And so even once per week is something that we consider much better. The real thing is to ensure that we monitor them well. And if Omicron allows, we do what we're doing in the best way possible.
The Education Minister said face-to-face instruction will resume in all pre-primary, primary and secondary level institutions. Sandy Williams, TVJ News. 5
people are now homeless following a fire in Newland, St. Thomas last night. It's reported that about 11:40, fire was seen coming from the dwelling. The Yalas Fire Station was called. Elliston Gordon is the district officer.
And arrive on the scene, we observe a dwelling house fully engulfed in flames. We seek assistance from the Fire Department also to assist us with the extinguish of this house.
one of the occupants of the house, a fruit vendor, lost all her items. She recounted how she escaped the burning building she called home.
I wake up. I see one man come over me. Man come over me and say, wake up my child. Take your quick them and run. And I say, Dana, grab the key. And then I drop the bag. And I saw me run and I say, Mikey, fire. I saw me run, couldn't catch nothing at all. Nothing at all, I couldn't grab.
Everything burned out.
Everything burned up. Shoes, papers, everything to the pit them, everything burned up. And I have nothing at all. Nothing at all, money, everything burned up. Nothing at all, I have.
In the meantime, this plea for help.
So we need assistance, we need help. We can't get to the school, we can't do nothing at all. Every paper's burned up. We don't have no shoes, we don't have no clothes, we don't have nothing at all. I'm still tired of people want help. Please, can't take me.
The cause of the fire and the estimated value of the damage are not yet known. And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. Tourism Minister Ed Bartlett says he's optimistic about the sector for 2022. Mr. Bartlett says while the sector's performance was strong this year, expectations are that next year will be better. O'Shane Masters reports.
The island's tourism sector continues to boom, with a number of additional rooms opened up in 2021. But Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says what happened this year is nothing compared to what's in the pipeline for the Caribbean's premier tourist destination.
2022 is going to be perhaps the most significant year for tourism construction in Jamaica in recent times. Certainly I can't say ever, because I'm not of that vintage, but certainly, you know, in recent times.
Mr. Bartlett also noted the growing demand for travel. He says from his recent travel overseas, he has had a first-hand account of how much people are willing to vacation despite the ravages of the pandemic. As for tourist numbers for Jamaica, he says those are looking positive. However, he notes cruise figures remain low due to the late reopening of that part of the sector.
We are just about less than 10% of the cruise total for the entire year. We are expecting that by the end of the winter, cruise will be somewhere in the region of about 25% of, but it will grow because it has that capacity. But stopover arrivals have been now somewhere in the region of 65 to 70% of 2019. And this winter season is making a bigger statement in that regard. And so all together now, when you add cruise and stopover, we are just about 53% recovered from 2019.
But he says while the sector continues to see great prospects, Jamaicans should be mindful of the COVID-19 virus. Hence, he's urging more Jamaicans to get vaccinated. The Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, recently said 5 Caribbean countries, which include Jamaica, may not meet the goal of having 40% of their populations vaccinated against COVID-19 by the end of the year. According to the Health Ministry, just about 19% of the population have been fully vaccinated.
Let's stop the knee-jerk reaction. This is going to happen. Build capacity and build resilience in dealing with these things. Build your own ability to manage it better and show the world that you're managing it. That's what the world is excited by. The world is excited when they look at Jamaica, as the US just did, and say that we can now remove you from Category 3 and put you in Category 4.
And it's now time for the Business Minute with Cody and Barrett.
In the world of business, supply chain issues have restricted local manufacturers from fully capitalizing on the increase in demand during the current quarter. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mafood, says a number of his members were not able to increase output for what is usually a busy period.
Leading into Christmas, I've canvassed some of our members. The sense was that they did better than 2020, but not as good as 2019. And one of the big issues that they faced was stock out from the shipping problems. They run out of raw materials. they have run out of finished goods, couldn't get the goods in time for Christmas and for basically the fourth quarter of 2021.
And in business internationally, JetBlue Airways is reducing its schedule by about 1,280 flights from Thursday through January 13 because a growing number of crew members are falling sick from COVID infections. Flight cancellations have been the norm in the airline business since Christmas Eve, when hundreds of flights were cancelled. According to FlightAware, more than 1,000 flights were cancelled Thursday. JetBlue's cancellations are a bit different since they will remain in effect for at least 2 weeks. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Cody Ann Barrett.
And with the top regional and international stories, here's Sandy Williams.
In regional news, in Guyana, the National Resources Fund bill has gained approval during a chaotic session in the Assembly on Wednesday as opposition legislators chanted, banged on the tables, blew whistles, and even attempted to take the Speaker's mace, which represents the authority of Parliament, from its place. In a statement issued late Wednesday, a Partnership for National Unity and Alliance for Change said the bill was not legally passed, since the mace, which must be present throughout the sitting of the Assembly when a law is to be passed, was not there, and all government MPs were not seated as required by the standing orders to vote. However, in a statement issued on Thursday morning, the government insisted all proper procedure had been followed, and the bill was passed despite the opposition's despicable and reprehensible behavior to block its passage. The bill is aimed at ensuring greater transparency and accountability in the management of Guyana's oil revenues. On the international scene, Jeffrey Epstein's former girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell has been found guilty in relation to her role in Epstein's sexual abuse of minor girls.
After deliberating for about 40 hours over 6 days, a jury in New York federal court has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of sex trafficking minor girls for Jeffrey Epstein over 2 decades, between 1994 and 2004.
The road to justice has been far too long. But today, justice has been done.
And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
Now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have the Midday Sports.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. The Jamaica Lacrosse Association has signed a partnership with the GC Foster College, which will be their hub for all national teams. In addition to the camps, senior lecturer at GC Foster College, Gibbs Williams, says the sport will be introduced to students and coaches to gain certification.
Bringing lacrosse into our curriculum must be a win-win situation for Lacrosse Jamaica, GC Foster College, and by extension, Jamaica. We had absolutely no hesitation. And so, with effect, semester 2, which starts on January 3, lacrosse will be introduced as an elective.
At the JLA, Brian Silcott spoke about how the partnership could help grow the sport locally.
It's going to be huge. The fact that GC Foster is willing to embrace the sport of lacrosse and teach it to PE teachers is going to make all the difference in the world. So right now, you know, most kids start playing as a freshman in high school. But if they're being taught the game in elementary school, you know, in grammar school and in middle school before they get to high school, it means they already know how to catch and throw when they get to high school. So them taking it, bringing it to PE classes gives a chance for kids to start playing earlier, so then they end up better at the game on the back end as well. Not to mention the fact that more kids will just play.
To football we go now, as Manchester United will be looking to extend their unbeaten run to 6 games as they host Burnley at Old Trafford this afternoon. United are 7th in the table on 28 points, while Burnley are 18th on 11 points. Kickoff is at 3:15 Jamaica time. This is the last fixture of the English Premier League for 2021. 4 fixtures are slated for New Year's Day on Saturday. Reggae Boys defender Greg Lee scored for English League One club Morecambe in a 2-1 loss to Crewe Alexandra on Wednesday. The 27-year-old left-back scored the opener in the 36th minute. The loss sees Morecambe remain in the relegation zone in 21st position in the league. Morecambe are 2 points adrift of safety. Lee has tallied 3 appearances for the Reggae Boys since his debut in 2020. That's the full-time whistle for your Midday Sports Report. I'm Simon Preston. Giovanni, it is over to you.
Thanks so much, Simon. That's also the full-time whistle for us here on the Midday News. I'm Giovanni Dennis. Join us at 7 for Primetime News. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.